Then the infamous Alligator Alcatraz opening this week. This is real. It's awesome. We're going to show you the media screaming from the rooftops about this. Also, Zoran Mamdani proposing raising taxes on white people and lowering them for everyone else. Trump's big, beautiful bill advancing in the Senate last night. It's crunch time with this. This could pass today or tomorrow. Elon Musk furious over the final language. And you won't believe what made it back into this bill. Mike Lee's land sale provision, which we covered a few weeks ago. You can't make this up. If you hunt, if you hike, or if you just enjoy access to our public lands, stick around for this segment and more stories as well from around the country. But before we get started, thank you for liking and sharing these videos. It really helps out the channel. And consider subscribing if you appreciate these regular updates.
Attorney General James Uthmeier here at the Miami-Dade Collier Training Facility. This is an old, virtually abandoned airport facility right in the middle of the Everglades. Florida's been leading on immigration enforcement, supporting the Trump administration and ICE's efforts to detain and deport criminal aliens. The governor tasked state leaders to identify places for new temporary detention facilities. I think this is the best one. As I call it, Alligator Alcatraz. You don't need to invest that much in the perimeter. If people get out, there's not much waiting for them other than alligators and pythons. Nowhere to go, nowhere to hide.
So we start the show by heading down to the Sunshine State, the great state of Florida, who, thanks to Governor DeSantis working with the Trump administration to fast-track this project, fast-track Alligator Alcatraz, built to help ICE carry out this mass deportation agenda. This project, I gotta say, is awesome. Built in record time. Get this, they started construction in early June.
Tonight, construction is underway deep in the Florida Everglades on a massive migrant detention camp that state officials are calling Alligator Alcatraz. Starting next month, 5,000 migrants will be housed in trailers and heavy-duty tents at this remote abandoned airfield.
As I call it, Alligator Alcatraz.
In a promotional video set to music, Florida's Attorney General lays out what he considers a deterrent for any potential escapees.
People get out, there's not much waiting for them other than alligators and pythons.
But some local officials warn the environmental impact could be devastating.
We have environmental and physical stewardship and safety concerns.
The Trump administration has said it wants to get up to 100,000 beds at detention centers across the country to facilitate mass deportations.
And they're finished, basically finished, scheduled to open this week as an ICE holding facility to hold and process some of the most dangerous of these illegals while their deportations are pending, instead of normal ICE holding facilities that require these huge investments for security and special walls, electronic fencing, all these security protocols which ICE requires. This facility using Mother Nature. Look at this place. The surrounding waters officially filled this week or last week with gators and pythons. Any illegal migrant who thinks about escaping from this place, who's bold enough or stupid enough to try and escape, will have to cross this. Located in the heart of the Everglades on a remote, nearly abandoned airstrip in Miami-Dade County. This was what it looked like 4 weeks ago, just an empty runway. 4 weeks later, it's complete and turned into this state-of-the-art holding facility. It actually looks really nice, to be honest. Ron DeSantis started construction on this Alligator Alcatraz 4 weeks ago, on June 2nd to be exact. And they're now ready to open and house up to 5,000 high-security detainees. How is it that Ron DeSantis can get Alligator Alcatraz ready in just weeks, while California's governor has failed miserably to rebuild almost any of Pacific Palisades? It's wild. Governor DeSantis invoking emergency powers to fast-track its development, bypassing environmental impact studies in order to get this done quickly. Something Gavin Newsom would never do. And the best part, though, is how they funded its construction, funded with the money that Biden set aside to put these illegals in five-star hotels. Watch this.
We've got a massive runway right behind us where any of the federal assets that they want to fly these people back to their home country, they can do it one-stop shop.
One-stop shop. You got it all. You got the detention facility. You've got the airport. Can the federal government make good use of this?
We sure can. Talk about efficiency right then and there. But also I want to talk about the funding for this. Some of it will be paid by the state of Florida, but a lot of it will be paid by the federal government. We're actually looking at FEMA to fund this through the Shelter and Services Program, which we saw in the Biden administration. That funding was bastardized to use for places like the Roosevelt Hotel, which is the place that housed Tren de Aragua, was really the base of operations there, as well as Lake and Riley's killer. So we're going to take that funding and actually house these illegal aliens before we get them out the door and out of our country.
All right.
Which is crazy to think about. Just 5 months ago, illegals were staying at 5-star hotels on our dime, chilling and living it up at the Ritz-Carlton for free. 5 months later, they're staying here on Alcatraz or Alligator Alcatraz. The juxtaposition is wild. Gavin Newsom putting California in a $60 billion deficit, huge debt, to fund his bullet train. 8 years later, I don't know, 60 meters or something like that of steel framing has been constructed. That's it, 60 meters for like $46 billion, and they've run out of time and money. Meanwhile, in Florida, Ron DeSantis is running a surplus, not a deficit, and builds Alligator Alcatraz in a couple of weeks. The Trump administration, they've gone from 0 to 60 in 5 months. They've already sealed the southern border. They're now fully underway with this mass deportation agenda. The facility supposed to play a large role in processing these folks out of the country. Meanwhile, Dems refusing to give Trump any credit for solving the border crisis.
You know, border crossings are at a record low. Do you give the Trump administration some credit for that? And are you, when you look at those figures, do you think things are moving in the right direction, at least in that regard, Senator?
No, I don't give them credit for that, because border crossings are low because they're violating the law every day. So we have a law in this country that says if you are fleeing terror or torture from another country, you can come here and apply for asylum. The Trump administration has suspended that law. They are not allowing anybody to come here to apply for asylum. We wrote that bipartisan bill last year to reform the asylum process, to make sure that only the right people are coming in and that we judge those cases expeditiously at the border. So it's true, there are very few people crossing on a daily basis, but that's because the Trump administration is violating the law, and it should matter to every American that on so many facets, the Trump administration doesn't care about the law. This is becoming a lawless administration. We are on a road to see our democracy atrophy to the point that it will be unrecognizable. And the border is just one example of many ways in which this administration doesn't care about the law anymore.
That is not true. They haven't broken the law to achieve this. It's a change in policy. No more catch and release. They've moved to catch and deport. And the language coming out of this administration is so tough that migrants aren't even attempting to cross illegally anymore. Under Biden, if you crossed illegally, you were given a 5-star hotel suite at the Ritz-Carlton. Why wouldn't you try to do that? Versus today, being housed at Alligator Alcatraz. Let me know in the comments, is this what you voted for? I'd say yes. In another story, Senate Republicans narrowly advancing President Trump's big, beautiful bill last night. The GOP hoping to pass this legislation by the 4th of July. Now that it's advanced, Dems are delaying the vote by reading out the entire 1,000-page bill on the Senate floor. Yes, they're really doing that. Still at this moment, actually. The Senate is waiting for them to finish reading all 1,000 pages. Let's actually check in on them real quick. Yep, they're still reading. Watch.
For purposes of paragraph 3, the term female means an individual who naturally has, had, will have, or would have, but for a developmental or genetic anomaly or historical accident, the reproductive system that at some point produces, transports, and utilizes eggs for fertilization. 5, male. For purposes of paragraph 3, the term male means an individual who naturally has, had, will have, or would have, but for a developmental or genetic anomaly or historical accident, the reproductive system that at some point produces, transports, and utilizes sperm for fertilization. Sec 71115.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer writing on X, I will object to Republicans moving forward on their big, ugly bill without reading it on the Senate floor first. Republicans won't tell America what's in the bill, so Dems are forcing it to be read start to finish on the floor. This is Trump's signature piece of legislation, folks. He's stuffed a bunch of his big campaign promises into this bill, but mainly why it's so important this bill passes is to make permanent his 2017 tax cuts. If this bill doesn't pass, everyone in the country will see a huge tax hike next year. Elon Musk, though, calling out the BBB on X last night, saying the latest Senate draft bill will destroy millions of jobs in America and cause immense strategic harm to our country, utterly insane and destructive. It gives handouts to industries of the past while severely damaging industries of the future. What Elon appears to be very upset about is the BBB stripping out a lot of subsidy money and tax credits for wind and solar. It helps oil and coal companies, though, and nuclear, while eliminating subsidies for EV and solar, which, look, you may agree with or you may not, but one legitimate criticism of this bill, which Elon isn't mentioning, nobody seems to be talking about, is what it does to our public lands. Now, I'll preface this by saying I'm a huge proponent of public land, conservation of our public lands, national forest land. Letting Americans access and use this land is our right, people. We own that land. We can hunt it, we can fish it, hike it, we could do all types of recreation on it. Well, get this. Senator Mike Lee's land sale proposal to sell off up to 3 million acres of federal land, meaning national forest land, it got stripped from the BBB like 2 weeks ago. Last night, it was reinstated, modified and reinstated, this time selling off 1.2 million acres across 11 western states for housing and community development. The areas they're doing this in is like the Tongass National Forest, the Gifford Pinchot in Washington, the land around Mount St. Helens and Mount Rainier. This is like the king of the crop, folks. Ancient forest that if you've never been, I highly recommend going and checking it out. Even if you don't hunt, it's like stepping into the past, what the entire West Coast probably looked like 500 years ago. And the worst part is this provision that somehow got slipped back in only raises $6 billion. That's it. $6 billion for 1.2 million acres is insane. Let me know what you think about this. Do you agree with Mike Lee? Is this the best way to make housing affordable again? Let me know your thoughts. In another story, the new mayoral candidate of New York City doubling down that white Americans will be taxed at a higher rate if he gets elected, saying in a new interview, it's about fairness. I call it like I see it, he says. I will not change the language of my plan. The plan that he's talking about, that everyone's talking about, is the proposal he wrote on his website, which specifically calls on raising taxes on white Americans, while lowering taxes for everyone else, saying shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer white neighborhoods. NBC's Meet the Press asking him in this new interview if he'll remove the race-based language in this tax plan. He says no. No, I'm just naming things as they are. Watch.